Okay, so we're talking about the the trauma that led to the development of my borderline personality disorder. In the previous few videos, I spoke about my relationship with my father. This one, I want to talk about a little bit about my grandparents. First, my great-grandmother was my favorite person. My favorite person in the entire world still is. She passed away back in, I want to say 93. I was young. I think I was around 10 years old when she passed. I remember going to when she was in the nursing home. I remember seeing her declining and how she acted when my grandparents brought the pastor over to talk about her going to stay in a nursing home, which she didn't take that well at all. But then she got there as a nursing home that my mom worked at as a CNA, and she loved it while she was there. But that winter, right before Christmas, her health really declined, and she slipped into a coma. We went Christmas Day after we had opened presents and everything. I remember before she went into the nursing home, every Christmas, it would snow, and we would have Christmas at my grandparents' house. They lived in the double-wide trailer on the farm. My great-grandma lived in the farmhouse for the longest time. And so we would stay the night at my grandparents' house and have Christmas there. And we'd always wait for my great-grandma to show up before we would do Christmas. We would open presents, and my grandma and mom would make biscuits and gravy for breakfast. So every Christmas morning, my brother and I would sit at the window in the dining room and watch for my great-grandma. She would walk across the yard in several inches of snow. An old farm lady, who grew up during the Depression and everything. She would walk across the field in several inches of snow. It could be blizzard conditions, and she would not let my grandpa get out and go pick her up. She would do it herself. Sweetest lady in the world. And we would watch for her every Christmas. And this was the first Christmas that we couldn't. She was in a coma in the nursing home. So after we opened presents and had breakfast and everything, we went up there and we saw her. We talked to her, even though she couldn't talk back. But we shared with her everything we got for Christmas and all this, and she passed away a few days later. We buried her on, I want to say, New Year's Eve. The funeral home stayed open just for us, because otherwise we would have had to wait some time before, because I think it was on a Friday or something like that. Otherwise, we would have had to wait all weekend and everything. And it was a long weekend. I could be wrong on this. My memory. I'm 40 years old, guys, so bear with me. But she was my favorite person in the world. She was there even when my grandparents weren't. She came to all my school functions, all my Cub Scout stuff. I stayed in Cub Scouts because of her, because I wanted to make her proud. When we'd go to church on Sundays, I would hold the door open for her and my grandparents and other people, and I would take my great-grandma's coat and hang it up. I would help her to her seat and everything. She was very proud of me, and everything I did was to make her proud of me. Even though I I could just about do anything, and I know she would still be proud of me. She was also the reason why I stayed in my family's church for as long as I did before I finally left Christianity, but we'll go into that another time if I'm asked. So anyway, anytime I would say anything about, when I would have conflicts with the Abrahamic God, post something on MySpace at the time or Facebook or whatever, my mom would always throw it in my face and say, "Oh, wouldn't great grandma be so proud of how you're talking about God?" But anyway, great grandma was my favorite person. And she was a lot of people's favorite person. She was just a sweet old lady, and she had this saying, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but she said, if you tell someone there's a thorn and they sit on it anyway, how does that impact you? And that's how she lived her life. She didn't have an ill word to say about anybody, even my dad. At least she never said anything around us about it. My grandparents, they helped raise my brother and myself. My grandpa was always really close to my brother. They had a lot in common, but I never did a whole lot with my grandpa. And that's no fault of his. He didn't know how to connect with me because we weren't into the same things. Occasionally, I would go golfing with him. He taught us how to shoot guns on the farm. We would shoot tin cans, and he would take us to the firing range and stuff. And he helped teach me how to drive in Florida. And my grandma, I had a good relationship with my grandma, but she could also be a very strict woman. We had to do what she said when she said it, if we were across the field at a neighbor's house playing or whatever, and she rang the dinner bell, which was a big cast iron bell, and if we didn't hear it and she rang it again, and then we came, she would yell at us for not coming the first time, If we were at home alone while my mom worked second shift, and she called over and told us to straighten up the house for my mom, if we hesitated on that, she would come over and she would spank our butts and make us get to work, but even though I had a good relationship with my grandparents for the most part, there was something that never really sat well with me. And that's the fact that every year on my birthday, since my second birthday, they would always go on vacation to Florida. Every year, never failed. I take that back. There was like maybe 1 or 2 years that they actually stayed home on my birthday. But for the most part, they always went to vacation on my birthday. And that always hurt because they were like my second parents, and the fact that they didn't want to actually be there to help celebrate my birthday as a kid, it hurt.